Roll call. Commissioner Abraham.
Here.
Commissioner Bites.
Here.
Commissioner Doherty.
Here.
Commissioner Ishibashi.
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell. Not present. And Vice Chair Teeter. Here. And Chair Fidrich. Thank you.
Next, I want to review and approve the minutes from the last meeting on March 2nd.
I would move that we approve the minutes. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstains? Any noes? Thank you.
Next, do we have any presentations this evening? None? Okay. We'll move over to oral requests. Okay, so let's go to unfinished business, and we'll start with A, which is Parks and Recs Commission Work Plan and Goals for FY 22 and 23.
All right, good evening, commissioners. So the report there covers the discussions we had at the last two commission meetings that covers the work plans and goals for the commission for the upcoming fiscal year. If approved by the commission, I'd be looking for a volunteer to present the goals and work plans for the commission to the city council at either the April 19th or May 3rd council meeting. It can be done in person or remotely via Zoom. So if the goals and work plans reflect everything that was discussed, I'm just looking for a motion for approval.
I move that we approve the goals and objectives for 22-23.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Thank you.
And then is there a volunteer to present at the city council meeting?
I am actually out of town both those days, so
Okay.
I'll step back on that one. Anybody else want to check their schedule?
Who's the vice chair?
Either April 19th or May 3rd.
You're out of town? Are you deferring or are you at? That's okay. No,
Is it at the beginning of the council meeting?
Yes, it would be under special, it would be under special presentations proclamation. So right out of the gates, it would be something.
All right. May 3rd, I'm out of town. I think spring breaks on April 19th, I think I'm out of town for spring break, but May 3rd, I think I'm here.
May 3rd?
Mhm.
Okay. I'll pencil it in and I'm eyeing Sherry because she looks like she might be a meaningful backup if something happens. So. May 3rd,
That's a Tuesday, probably?
that's correct. Okay. So the meeting begins at 7:30, so probably by about 7:45.
Okay,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
and you'll remind me of this? Okay, thank you.
okay. Let's move into what's going on with the Campbell Park the renovation update, Campbell Park renovation update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So as many of you know, the Campbell Park project is now well underway. We did a brief report on this at the last meeting, but construction had just started at that point. So as you will recall, after a little bit of some challenges with regard to awarding the contract and ultimately appropriating some additional funds to award the contract, the project actually started on February 28th and is now currently about 20 to 25% done. It is on schedule to be completed by September 30th. So most of the demo work has been completed with the exception of the restroom building. And there's been some challenges there because all of the power for the rest of the park also runs through the restroom building. So we need to set up a temporary power pole, which we believe will be in place by the week of, or sometime the week of April 18th. And once we have that temporary power pole in place and we can run power kind of around the restroom building without going through it, we can actually start the demo of the building at that point. So the rough grading of the site has been completed. A lot of the underground utility work is underway, and we do have some temporary restrooms on site that we're finding were not being cleaned at the appropriate frequency. So now they are up to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, being done 3 times a week. And again, the balance of the park is looking good and is in highly usable condition. So we're proceeding on schedule. And as a side note, we will be hosting our Arbor Day event there on April 29th, but you'll hear more about that later.
Hey, Todd, remind us the date you think everything will be completed.
Right now, we're on schedule for the completion date of September 30th. So end of summer, essentially.
Questions, anybody? No?
With the exception of the temporary power issue, it is.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I drove by yesterday. I saw the fences up, so great. Okay, how about we go over to the track update next?
So for the track update, I'll bring up the one person who's probably actually more excited about the track than me, and that would be Mr. Ron Termina. He and I visit the track at least daily, sometimes a couple times a day, and he knows all the ins and outs and can tell you all the progress. But I think many of you know that this project is going exceedingly well and very fast.
Exactly. How's everybody tonight doing? Okay, great. Am I on? Okay. The track, as Todd was saying, is moving along quite rapidly. Contractor we have on site is doing a really good job out there. In the last 2 weeks, they've been able to strip the track off, put the new first layer down, which is a rubberized surface that goes underneath the coating. So they lay down the rubberized surface. That was completed. They went through and put a sealer on top of that. That was first part of this week and actually a little bit of last Friday. Over the last 2 days, they've been working on the final coat. This is a 3-step process for the track. Right now, they're doing a spray on, which is the colored coating on the top, which is with the ground up tennis ball rubber, which is red too. That's called Bean on Red as the color out there after the company. But they have most of the second coat done on the top layer. Tomorrow they will finish that off completely. And Friday they'll do cleanup out there, take down all the plastic that's up against all the fencing and everything. If anybody's been by there, they could see all the plastic, everything's up. And the process will start on Monday for the striping for the lanes back again. That usually takes 3 to 4 days. But they're calling for a chance of rain next week, so that may delay a day or two out depending on how wet the track gets. But if everything works out well with the weather, we're kind of anticipating that the end of next week, by the 15th, we should have the project wrapped up. So it's showing that we're going to be able to open it up earlier than the 29th for sure. So, but it works out nice when you have a good contractor doing a heck of a job out there. The guys are hard-working guys. So, yeah, things are going well. Me and Todd were looking at that. You almost don't want to have anybody step on it. It looks so nice and new and everything. You just want to look at it for a while. So, but yeah, it'll be nice. So hopefully the next couple of weeks, people can get out there and enjoy it again. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Before you run, any questions?
Ron, what's the lifespan of the new track?
The new track actually,
Is it any different than the old one? Is it like fancier materials or updated? I don't know.
It's similar in materials. But unfortunately, with the old track, about every 5 years, just like if you were painting your home or something, you want to put a sealer down on that track. It's actually the finished surface. They spray it over the top. It's almost like painting wood on your house or something to preserve it. That extends the life of the track. So if we continue to have a preventive maintenance plan where we're going every 5 years, they're thinking we can get, 15 years out of it, probably, And unfortunately, in the past, this other track didn't have that done. A lot of the surface wore out. So what happened is a lot of the surfaces were starting to tear, and then you had water and stuff getting into the base surface, and then that's when it was deteriorating. But even though it was torn up when they removed all that old rubberized surface, the contractor was really amazed the condition of the asphalt that was underneath it was in beautiful. It looked like brand new. So that helped us out a lot. That shaved a lot of time off the project too, because there wasn't a bunch of repairs that needed to be done. So yeah, so great.
Hey, Ron, quick question.
Mhm.
I know on the weekends, they play soccer a lot there and the field's used a lot. Do we have to worry about people wearing their cleats on that track or tearing it up at all? Or is that just a non-factor?
You know what? I don't have the answer for you. I'll talk to the contractor and see how it stands up to. I don't know how it would be with cleats that have the steel bottom, but if it's the regular cleats that kids are using for
Mhm.
soccer, they kind of just have the big little knobs on the bottom. I don't think it's going to hurt
Okay.
it, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
But I will ask
Yeah, I
the
just wondering, when I
contractor
was
to
a kid, I used
find
to put
out.
boards down when we used to walk across to the football field. So
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
tear it up.
Maybe
Yeah,
no.
they used to lay the plywood across. to
Exactly,
walk
exactly,
across it.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
just wondering.
I'll find out. I can
Mhm.
get back to you and
Okay.
have Becca email you or something on it.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
great. Thank
Anybody
you.
else?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're on a roll here. Let's go to new business. And we're going to review the proposed FY23 and FY27 proposed parks CIP.
Yes, we are. And once again, thank you, Mr. Chair. And we have had some conversations on this subject over the last couple of meetings as well. So I think I briefly touched on this back in February, and then we put a little more thought into it when we were having a discussion with you in March. And now we've got kind of a nice proposed a capital improvement program for the park fund. And when I say we, I really don't mean me. I mean my colleagues in the finance department who are sitting up against the window back there. So we have our finance director, Will Fuentes, and our budget manager, Norit Bong, right? Norit Bong. Almost missed that, sorry. So this is really their handiwork, and it's really based on some preliminary input that we had gathered from our discussions with you and what had previously been in the budget as well. But if you take a look at either what's in your packet or what's up in the screen, you do have it's easy. It's kind of easier to follow along the other couple of columns that we have up there. So essentially, kind of ignore that first column that says total. And when you go to the second column that has carryover, those are essentially projects that have been funded either in the current fiscal year or prior. And so you are well aware of a few of those. We've got the remnants of the John D. Morgan Budside project there. We've got the Campbell Park pathway there. You got the community center track there in its old form. This doesn't reflect our additional funding from the CDBG program. And so those are the projects that well, and I missed one really obvious one at the top there. You got the Campbell Park improvements one, which is pretty significant. So those are really all in progress and already funded and kind of moving along with the life of their own. When we talk about the 5-year time horizon for the CIP, we're really talking about the upcoming fiscal year and then a running period of 5 years. So in this case, it will be fiscal year 23 through fiscal year 27. And we have discussed, there's not a lot of projects in there beyond this year, but we've talked to you about these before. And what we tried to get a sense was how to, we wanted you to help us prioritize these. So what you see funded Next year, fiscal year 23 will be the improvements for the John D. Morgan parking lots, which we know that parking has become an issue out there in light of our highly successful playground project. And then we are also going to do an assessment of the recreational building, which kind of runs along the ball field there. I should note that we are upgrading the restrooms out there as we speak. So we are making them not only more ADA compliant, but they're going to be a lot more user friendly and a little more aesthetically pleasing in terms of wall and floor treatments. And we'll have all new fixtures and partitions out there. We expect that those restrooms will reopen before the end of this month. But aside from that, we are going to be taking a look at how we utilize that building. Does it need any structural help? What's the overall condition? So the 50,000 that we have budgeted does not really get into improvements. It's really going to be just kind of an assessment of where we are. And if we need to, put a capital project together, I could see us doing one in a future year. Beyond fiscal year 23, you will see that we have funding for the John D. Morgan Budside restroom improvements over a period of 2 years. We have money in fiscal year 24 and some in fiscal year 25. And what our thinking is on that is that in fiscal year 24, we would actually begin the design. So that's more like our planning and design money. And in fiscal year 25 would be our capital and our true capital improvement project, where we're out there, either replacing or renovating that structure.
Todd, I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
Yes,
Before I forget?
please.
I'm a little confused. So it shows here the Bud improvements, the restrooms,
Yes.
but did you say you're working on it right now?
No, I'm sorry. What I meant to say, what I was trying to say is I was talking about the John D. Morgan Rincon
Okay.
Park building, and
Okay.
we're working on the restrooms in that building currently. So we're going to bring the Rincon side restrooms up to a higher standard, and those should be fine for a fairly long time after that. It's the Bud side that we'll need to do the improvements. And again, this is all kind of the impetus of this was really the playground improvement project. That really kind of changes the character, increases the park demand out there. So you've got a great new playground. We have a lot more people coming to the park, all great things, but now we're finding that we need to take a second look at parking, and we need to take a look at the restroom facility. And kind of as a side note, but maybe equally important, is take a look at the park utilization. So that's why you had Natasha talking to you before about, it's our philosophy and our policy going to be for how we rent out and utilize the reservable picnic grounds, because there are certain days of the week where that park is kind of a free for all, and we're trying to get our arms around that and help manage the site. So beyond the John D. Morgan beyond the restroom project, you will see that we then start taking a look at both Virginia Park in fiscal year 25, and that's kind of in the first year there, we'd be starting to plan and design what we need, and with improvements coming in fiscal year 26. And then in a similar fashion, we do have some design money programmed for the John D. Morgan Rincon side playground in fiscal year 25, but we didn't program any money beyond that, because we've been making some improvements in that side over the years. So that's really going to kind of be a combination of an assessment, and then if that evolves into more of a design process, we'll then maybe have to program some real construction money in either for fiscal year 26 or fiscal year 27, depending on what the other needs are of the park system at that time. So we left that one a little more open-ended, so we'd have some flexibility with that. But that's really our plan, or our proposed plan. So we're hoping to get some input from you on that. And then, as I mentioned in the cover memo that goes along with this, we also have a trail spur project that we're working on kind of offline. It's not related to the park fund necessarily, but we do have a developer contribution from the Prune Yard. So we're going to be working to see if we can extend the spur of the Los Gatos Creek Trail, kind of along the western edge of the prune yard, right along the Highway 17 boundary to take us out to East Campbell Avenue. That'll probably take a fair amount of planning and discussion with Caltrans. And then if we're successful with that, we would move that into the construction phase as well. So that's our plan at this point, and happy to take questions and hear your input.
Questions first? Anyone?
Todd, sorry,
You go first.
I have a question about the JDM parking lot improvement. So
Yes.
how are we going to fit more spots? Are we extending the parking lot?
Well, yes, this is a great question, right? So part of what happens at the parking lots is that we have to manage the demand of the parking lots. So what we're finding in the interim, and we don't need a capital project to help us figure this one out, is that we've got a fair amount of nearby residents, shall we say, that use both parking lots for overnight parking. And when I say both, I mean the one on Bud side, and then I mean the smaller one on the Rincon side, because they're very close to higher density multifamily type complexes. So in the interim, we're actually going to be increasing the signage, and we're working with our police department to do a little more enforcement out there. And so that's kind of step one is, we do have very limited parking resources, and so we cannot let them go, and it is what it is, right? We need to kind of reserve that for our park users. Beyond that, we are going to be looking at the overall configurations. There's probably room in all the lots there to potentially be restriped, slightly different configuration. I don't know if that's necessarily true on the smaller lot on the Rincon side, but probably for the bigger lot that runs along the expressway and the lot on the Bud side, that's a very irregular shaped parking lot. And so we may be able to come up with another configuration that gains us some parking. Conversely to that, we may be finding that we don't have enough ADA compliant spaces. I mean, we are compliant from the letter of the law, but trying to serve our park users who are coming to an all-inclusive play lot, we may make the determination that number needs to exceed the legal requirement. So that's another element that we'll be looking at. And then kind of along the lines there of park usage and helping to manage that, we may find that particularly for the two lots that are accessed on the Rincon side, there may have to be some additional vehicle barriers in there that will help preclude the pop-up parties and the jump houses and the mechanical bulls from showing up to the middle of the park when we shouldn't have any vehicles in there to begin with. So I don't know if it's going to be exclusively about looking for expansion opportunities, but it's going to be kind of looking for parking management opportunities as well.
I'd like to make an observation. Two things. The traffic issues, parking issue is a big issue. The times I've been there, it's amazing how the parking lot by the children's rec area is almost full all the time.
We may have lost you.
There, is it on now? The other observation I want to make is, and it's a compliment, the grasses in that park are really, really green and really been revived, if you will, because they were getting pretty stressed. They look great. Just giving credit whoever needs that.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. And I think you're going to learn a little bit more about our turf management strategy here at some point in this meeting, but we certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
I've got several things. While we're on this topic, I think we should try and utilize somehow the parking at CSI, which is the school that's adjacent, right? There's lots of parking there. I don't think it's used that much. If we made some kind of path between that and like the all-inclusive, like maybe not everyone will park over there, but it might help relieve some of the issues. without much additional cost. And then looking at this chart, is it predicting $400,000 of park dedication fees for like fiscal year 23 through 27? Is that kind of the estimate that's in here? Am I reading this right?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Because I anticipate from all these housing element things that I've been listening to that there's gonna be a lot of units, potentially coming up. So that number could be potentially higher. I imagine, I don't know if it's a conservative or whatever, but it seems like the pipeline might be pretty strong. This number may go up. So just an observation. And then two things regarding the projects. I don't see anything regarding the pool, right? That's, again, I always say this, Campbell Parks are in excellent condition, but there's two things. The pool, right, is not in excellent condition. Obviously, it's quite expensive too, but maybe having some set aside funds, just trying to save some money up, whether it's for gigantic repairs for that thing or overhaul or whatever. And the other thing that strikes me, which I thought of the other day, is a skate park, right? The skate park is extremely popular, but it's falling apart. And it's got these metal ramps that are incredibly loud and probably quite annoying for people that are close. Not to say that you need to redo the whole thing, but from what I understand, talking to my neighbor who's really into skating, older gentleman, there are concrete type ramps that you can like just plug and play, like kind of just set there, that are much quieter and apparently much better to skate on. So that's something, since there seems to be, a fair amount of money here and everything else is in excellent condition, the skate park strikes me as something that we might want to at least evaluate or add to this list, because I think overall the cost would be not that significant to kind of put some new ramps and whatnot in there. And we seem to have the money
But
potentially.
the
to do
pool
that.
is a higher priority, right?
Well, the pool would be, yes, a higher
That's
priority,
leading the
but the
witness.
cost is so large that yes, saving money for the pool too, but I think the skate park can be done in, a couple $100,000 maybe.
That's probably a 1-year project.
Yes.
I understand.
So
Yes.
that's just, I think that's everything I have.
Sure. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Actually, I'll add on, and you had some of the same points I had, though. The skateboard one is a great one. So the way I read this going across, we currently have $4.5 million, correct? Beginning fund balance. And there's a deficit that we run out for the first 4 years, or actually 5 years, it looks like. But at the end, you still have $2 million in the bank, so to speak, come 2027. Am I reading that right?
I don't see where you say we have $4 million.
4.5 up on top, beginning fund balance.
Oh, yes. Okay,
Okay.
I do. Yes, we do have 4. Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
And everything that's listed in the projects, it's all been approved already. Is that correct?
Everything that's listed in the carryover column has been funded and approved. What's proposed from 23 and beyond is simply that at this point is proposed.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
So
Okay.
what that really looks like, I think maybe a more accurate reading on that is, yes, we have 4.5 million, but going down that column, 3.4 million of that is already committed to Campbell Park, the Bud project, auxiliary gym, the bike pathway, which is done, the track resurfacing, which is
Mhm.
almost done. So you've really got $3.4 million, which is committed. That gives you an ending fund balance of 1.4 million.
Right.
So you take that up to the top of the next column. That's really what we have to play with
Okay.
over the next, that's our starting point for the next 5
Mhm.
years.
No, my thoughts were the same as Craig's, and that is like a rainy day fund. And the pool's an excellent one. I love the skateboard one. One other one I just want to just bring up is that I am just very wary of the drought issue. And I don't know whether our fields, I know they've been already updated once with sprinklers. I don't know if they have to be updated anymore, because I just don't see that drought problem getting any better in the near future. Putting in fake grass in the football field, I know it's probably $1 million expenditure, but something like that might be, I'm just thinking, if this drought just continues, do we have to set funds aside to just mitigate that at all? So just a thought. Sure. Anybody else? Do we have any actions here tonight?
I don't need an action. I guess what's always one of the challenges about taking input is whether we should represent that as the consensus of the commission or not. So I think it's kind of a fair point to do kind of an informal poll on maybe a couple of these things. So, I mean, I think these are all reason. I mean, I guess what I'm hearing here are, I mean, I'll say first that I think us trying to work with the school district on a parking agreement is probably something that we need to do anyway, and probably is not a potential CIP item, but is important nevertheless. So I think we hear you loud and clear on that, and we have had dialogue with them over the years. It's not really active right now, but maybe this is a good opportunity for us to reactivate that. It might be good for us to kind of take a straw poll on setting aside money for the pool, skate park, and or additional irrigation or water conservation
That's
measures.
just a, I don't know if it's needed or not. I just wanted to bring that up just to make sure it's, in our mind, and maybe Bob can address that. So
Yeah, I can have Bob answer that, but I will say that our irrigation systems are older, kind of across the board, but we have been making improvements to our controllers, which helps us manage as best we can the older systems that we have. So there's kind of a two parts to
Mhm.
that. You need good controllers, but you need good infrastructure in the ground. And the infrastructure in the ground is becoming our challenges, is becoming our challenge lately. We have, we have older valves, we have leaks in the lateral lines, we have broken main lines, and that takes up a lot of, it's not only a water conservation issue, it's a resources issue, because we often find that we're trying to address corrective maintenance issues with no, with little or no warning. So
is that something you fix piece by piece, year by year, or do you have to do a whole new?
it's well, you can do that too, like any other asset. You can do that, but we probably should start prioritizing our facilities that will need an irrigation replacement or rehabilitation at some
Mhm.
point. And we don't have any of those showing. So I think that's a good reminder for us to start identifying what our priorities are for irrigation improvements.
Do you have any idea of an order of magnitude for cost for something like that? Is that $1 million to do everything? Is it like you do one park at a time? Like, I don't know how that makes sense, or how you lay that out, or how we evaluate that on, the limited budget that we have, if that makes sense.
I haven't worked on an irrigation replacement project in a long time, but I would think that a park like a wholesale replacement in a John D. Morgan probably exceeds $1 million. But in a Virginia park, probably not so much, right? So it's going to be a function of the size of the park, what size what size your main lines are. I mean, we've got some pretty significant main lines coming in to both the community center play fields and John D. Morgan. I mean, so it's just, there's a lot of underground assets out there that would need to be replaced.
Okay.
So
I consider-
can I get a show of hands or a nodding of heads on establishing a pool reserve? All right, I'm hearing that's a good idea. I didn't count you, Natasha. How about the same question for skate park? Should we be looking at improvements to the skate park? Yes and yes. And then I'm assuming that I'm going to see the same thing for us prioritizing water conservation and irrigation. All right, thank you.
Well, just one point, like Craig said, I think the skate park thing might be relatively easy.
It may be.
So that just might be an easy one to knock out. So
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 I have
I'll
a
work
quick,
with my colleague in recreation on that project. Be happy to work with Natasha.
I have a quick question, probably for Natasha. With the current configuration of the pool, it uses a lot of water because of the deep end? Would it be the thought process to have a one depth all the way across? Or I remember the last time we talked about the pool, there's a talk of having two, an exercise pool and the regular swimming pool. So Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it uses water because of,
Right,
just standard
evaporation
evaporation and
and-
things like that. But we also have like real significant functional issues with the
Yes.
operation of it. The benefit of having a pool that is all 3.5 feet is the heating. It's generally people when agencies do that, it's solely so that they can keep it warmer and keep it at that rate for more therapeutic type recreation, so that it's never dropping below, so that once you put the covers on, it can stay at a real even temp. When you have a deeper pool, it gets cooler much faster and it's harder to keep and maintain at the same temperature. So it would still be, in a perfect world, when we had ample money, yes, 2 pools would be ideal, and we would expand recreation into like the therapeutics for
Right.
sure. Mhm.
I know I asked this question last time. Was it like $5 million to do those 2 pools like 3 years ago, whenever that
Yes.
analysis was done?
Yes, but I think that included the facilities too. Do you know
Like the
what I'm saying?
locker rooms and stuff? Was that-
Yeah, so the other component to this is the entry points to the pool deck are not coming in through a facility. So it revamped locker rooms. It made access from kind of the corner entry was one design function, but created kind of hallways, because once a person steps foot onto the pool deck, you have to have a guard there. So you need people to be able to get from one end to the other without actually entering the pool deck. And so that was some of the functionality that was looked at in changing that. So I'm fairly certain that the 5 million encompassed the locker room upgrades and some changes as well.
Okay.
Well, it would nice to
So-
be see the pool on the CIP project list, even if it's years out. At least if we start putting some money into it, we could save for that rainy day, so to speak.
I think the challenge, though, and I don't want to turn this into a pool discussion, but if you put aside $250,000 a year, so to speak, we're never going to get to the amount we need. So I just think a little bit of different thinking has to come about, and maybe it's like trying to go out there and find sponsors and say, sell it as the Home Depot Campbell pool or something. I mean, didn't we do something like that when we were selling the little plaques? We did something like that for a small amount, but
The benefit to having earmarking of some funds is that if there are grant opportunities, then the city has the matching funds available if those are required. So that is a benefit to having some sort of reserve if those opportunities come up. And even if you were to partner, I don't know if Home Depot would be the right choice, but something like Kaiser, to have kind of access and those kinds of things at the pool and have it kind of like a shared facility. Those are options, but we would still have to have some give from the city. It's not just simply them paying for everything too. So.
and that makes sense. I mean,
Mhm.
just a different approach. Yeah, Kaiser put some kind of healthcare facility there, a rehab center as part of it. Okay, we'll move on to the committee reports. Let's go to Chair Teeter or Vice Chair Teeter for the Parks and Creek Trail.
Well, over the past month, my husband and I have done our weekly, if not several times a week, hiking over at Campbell Park. Finding it really, really nice. We can see that the restroom is under construction, which is nice to see all those workers out there. And it's nice to see in the basketball court, you've got 3 basketball courts full of people, and then the 1 basketball court is full of Zumba dancers. That's just great to watch. I haven't noticed any new homeless camps. There's still kind of the 2. But yeah, no, it's looking really good. And I think one of our other commissioners went to another park.
Yeah, I actually went to the new improvements at John D. Morgan on a Sunday almost evening, and that place was still super busy. So I was kind of curious. I thought, I'm like, oh, Sunday maybe won't be that busy. Let's see how many people are there. And it was hopping. Kind of even at dusk. It was very busy. It looked really good. Nice to see that many people there. Obviously, I've been watching the track work too because I live really close to it, and that's been pretty neat seeing. In particular, as everyone pointed out, how good the asphalt was underneath it. I was really surprised. It looked new to me. What else did I say? And the skate park. So I went by the skate park too, just to kind of see what's going on over there since I'm right there. And that's where I got the idea to bring that up.
Okay, great. Next we'll go to trees. Because I'm the chair there. Trees are getting leaves on them at this point, so besides that, I have nothing for trees. Do you have anything for trees? No? Okay. Okay, let's go over to special events. Chair Mitchell is not here, so let's go over to Commissioner Abraham.
Events are back. That's super exciting. So we have the fun run coming up, and I'm sure Natasha will tell us all about it. We have outdoor cinemas, which are happening at JDM, right, Natasha? Yeah. And then, of course, our music, which is, I think it's four Thursdays, right? Yeah.
That's great. Let's go over to staff reports first. Parks. Todd, is that you?
Thank you. Yes, it's me, but I think you've heard enough from me for the evening. So I'm going to ask Bob Shazinski to maybe give us his operational report for how parks are going and how he's helping keep the grass green.
This is a little activator button there. Well, thank you for acknowledging that the turf at JDM does look very green. And there's a specific reason for that. We were hoping for rain, like everybody, all winter long. So we had the water off. And you can push the water off for quite a while before trees start showing some signs of stress. And well, we reached the point where we have to do something. So the water's back on. So how do we make sure that we're utilizing every drop as best we can? And I'm going to tip my hat a little bit to Natasha, the same way they keep the pool going through maintenance. That pool is way past its prime. That's a rumor I heard. And our irrigation system's past its prime. So what we want to do is make sure that we're maintaining what we have to the best of our ability. That means new parts, means inspections, means partnering with contractors and using best turf management practices. So one of the ways you do that, keep the water that we do put down, put it to the best use possible, is you operate the deep tine aerator. This is one of the tines from it, and it's got a little bit of industrial oil. Otherwise, I was going to pass it around, but I don't think you want to get it, it on your hands. And what this does is it goes to the back of a trailer, a tractor, and just like you see on a farm, it's bright orange, and this jams into the ground with high velocity, and then as it comes out, it kind of flicks out. So it pokes a hole in the ground, and we get about this deep. We don't really want to get too deep. And then it flicks and kind of cracks the soil as it goes out. That allows air into the soil, allows water into the soil, which is really important because if your soil is compacted, the water sits on top and it evaporates. If we can get the water down into the root zone, it goes into the plant and it's much slower evaporation. So we're trying to utilize our water dollars as carefully as we can. And I want to show you an example of the power that is required to jam this tine into the ground. This is a perfectly functioning tine. This is one that's broken off from the power of inserting it into the ground. Lots and lots of power and velocity. This is what they look like after they've been in the ground operating for a while. They get this sharp point. You're just wearing out that metal. So lots and lots of energy to break that hard pan to allow the roots to grow. And that's one of the reasons you have to add the additional water. If you try to push a tine into hard ground, it's not going to go. So we did purposely turn up the water at JDM. Just for an aside, this is a different kind of tine. This is called a solid core tine. This is a hollow core tine. You can see it's hollow. It has a hardened steel edge here, and this is the one that goes into the ground. It comes straight out, and you'll see a little tube of dirt all over the ground. That's how this one operates. The magic with these is they can go deeper without breaking. these are more fragile, but they also kind of pull out a core, which is kind of nice. So that's a little bit of what we're doing to conserve water and utilize what we have to the best of our ability. And one of the things we're doing just this week and last week is we're applying a product which controls broadleaf weeds. Anything that's growing in the field of grass that's competing with the grass is competing for the water. And those darn weeds are really good at it, and they will pull up the water faster than the grass plants. In addition, for playability, just having no weeds is better. The ball rolls better. The kids can play with their cleats better. If the weeds get too big and woody, the cleats can hook on it. So we're working on that actually as we speak this week. And that's pretty much a little bit of a nutshell of what we're doing with and to be honest with you, Mother Nature's doing her part. Just saying in spring, the turf should look good, but I do appreciate the words. I'll send it off to the guys. Does anybody have any quick questions
Just
about
one
that?
question, Bob.
Sure.
You just do that once a year, or is that done multiple times?
We do it as, you cannot over aerate. So we do it as staff time is made available. And our goal would be at least quarterly. And we got a good group of guys. As you know, we've backfilled a lot of positions, and we're putting those guys in training and putting them to use. So as often as we can is somewhat the answer. Of course, the focus would be on the sports fields.
In my walking along the path there, I noticed a lot of piles of dirt out and all over the field. Was that one device being used? I presume it was.
It depends on how big a pile of soil.
Just a little pile, enough that you wouldn't notice it, but it didn't look like a tractor went through and tore everything out.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do some research. I'm not really sure.
I suspect that's it.
It
Another
is.
question.
It looked like that at the community center, so I know what you're talking
Oh,
about. It
okay.
is. It is
Oh, yeah, yeah.
exactly
It can
that.
do a little damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another observation that's a question, I think, is I noticed coming up St. Thomas that the trees at the edge of the park on the road, some of those look like they're dying. And that's kind of a question of ultimately, if they are, they're pretty solid trees. Whose responsibility is to manage those? Is it the cities or is it the?
Okay. I can talk a little bit about the health of the trees. We are very concerned about all the trees in the park, but specifically along the expressway. The trees on, quote, our side up by Bud Avenue are looking good. If you go down towards Rincon's side at that back parking lot, they've been struggling partly because of climate change and partly because they're surrounded by asphalt on both sides, reflective heat. We have developed a specialized watering system for those redwoods, and we're implementing it and running the water specifically just for those trees. And we're seeing results where they're coming back. The catch is, what's the long-term smart solution for that area? And I've actually looked at some different species of trees that maybe we start interplanting, but that's a very important decision that needs some support from others. Did that answer? Okay. Real quick, just want to let you guys know that Arbor Day is coming. We're real excited. This year, it's going to be at Campbell Park. We're going to be replacing 7 missing trees. And our guest planter out there is going to be the Friends of Children with Special Needs. They are volunteers that have been working in the parks for some time now, doing routine maintenance, such as raking leaves and that type of thing. They're going to be doing the tree planting with the assistance of the park staff. It's going to be a smaller, more intimate group. It's a little bit of a different vibe this year for that event. And also we have Keep America Beautiful coming up in May. I believe it's the 14th. It's a Saturday. That's also, in the past, it had been quite a big event. We're kind of right-sizing it, and that will be held mainly at Morley Park. And we have some activities that we're going to be taking care of out there at that time. Let's see. So one other quick thing, we're heading into the future, right? Everybody knows that electric is the future. And I just wanted to see if anybody noticed, but at John Morgan Park and Jack Fisher Park, we've had some electric mowers out there, robotic electric mowers from Nextmo, which is in Taiwan. These really smart engineers have figured out a way to GPS map the park around the trees, around the playground tables, whatever, and put these little mowers out. They look like coolers, like picnic coolers. They got little wheels. If you come up to them, they shut off. If the people steal them, they got GPS. And we're honestly not looking at doing that, given what we're doing, but we're partnering with Gardenland, who's our support system for all our maintenance equipment. And so we're kind of doing them a favor, but I thought somebody might have noticed those. Yeah. Any other questions?
Awesome. Thank you very much.
And I should add that we'll make sure that we get you the invitations out to the Arbor Day event and Keep America Beautiful with the exact date and time as reminders as we get closer.
Okay. If you let us know when those Nextmo mowers are being used also, we'll go
Yeah.
watch those. Okay. Then we have Natasha, Recreation and Community Services.
All right, so first off, I'd like to share with you the promotion of Lauren Merriman to our Recreation Services Manager position. So we were doing the recruitment last time we met, and she was selected to fill that vacancy. So we're very excited, very proud. She's been working very hard. We currently have a recreation coordinator for adult services. That recruitment is, it was open, it's closed. We have a solid number of candidates, and we're working through getting the oral board set up for that. Our summer activity guide is off to the printer. It should be hitting Campbell resident mailboxes around the 21st of April. Camps and swim lesson registration is already open and enrollment is going really well. It's almost kind of pre-pandemic enrollment numbers right now. As the law said, Saturday, May 7th will be our fun run, and we do need volunteers to help on both Friday night at Sports Basement for packet pickup and Saturday at Campbell Park for the event. So thank you to those of you who've already responded back. If you're available, Erin Bueno will be coordinating with you the volunteer time. We will not be having race day registration, and it is a 5K only. So we have the 5K and the Kids Dash. So smaller scale event. And like I said, no race day registration. Everything needs to be done in advance. Our summer concerts will begin June 23rd. We'll have 4 and the 4 consecutive Thursdays until the library gets fenced off and power gets cut. And then summer movie nights at John D. Morgan Park. We'll have one on July 22nd for the movie Encanto, and then in September on the 16th, the movie Luca. Our lap swim, so we have been doing single lane usage reservation only. We are transitioning back to group lap swim come May 2nd. So you can pre-register is for either the morning timeframe, the noon timeframe, or the PM timeframe. You can come anytime during that time. It's multi-person per lane. We are requiring people to pre-register, but we're increasing the capacity, multiple swimmers, those kinds of things. But we are not doing any cash at the gate. So kind of back to normal, but not quite. It'll be $5.50 to come to any one of those. Drop-in volleyball is also returning in May. So we'll have drop-in on Tuesdays from 11:30 to 2 p.m. and Fridays from 7 to 10 p.m. Again, that'll be a pre-registered thing where people can pick the days that they want to show up and pay in advance. No cash entry again. The Ainsley House Garden Concert Series will begin on Sunday, April 24th with the blues guitarist Chris Kane. Tickets are $30 and can be purchased at campbellmuseums.com. They'll have future concerts on Sunday, May 22nd and June 26th. The Heritage Theater, we don't have a season planned for you to share with you yet, but we are working on it. But our rentals for May and June are pretty much back to pre-pandemic levels, with a lot of our dance studios coming back and previous users. So that building is getting a breath of life back into it. And lastly, the community center continues to have a very robust rental program for our facilities there. Our banquet hall is booked every Saturday from now until mid-September. We have one date available. So everything is getting kind of booked up. People kind of filling in for celebrations and events that didn't happen during the pandemic. And that concludes my report.
Just a reminder, what night was that sports basement night again?
That'll be on Friday, May 6th.
Thank you.
Yes.
Natasha, for the outdoor movies, do we only do them at JDM for a reason?
So they're technically not ours. They're in partnership with Community Christian. So Community Christian really takes the lead and we're really just the vessel for them to do it and help with the promotion.
Oh.
But it's really their volunteers who are kind of running it and they get the licensing for the movie and have the blow up and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would just be a really interesting way to activate our other parks.
They use the pony baseball lake because it's also fenced. So it has control functions for smaller children is the other component that the church likes to have. A little bit of controlled entry.
Okay, anything else? I guess now we'll go to good of the game. Anybody like to start? No one wants to step forward?
I have a question for Todd. I think it's good. I think it's kind of, I think it fits in this category. Natasha mentioned that the library is gonna be all fenced off. Can you give an update of like the construction for all this facility and that facility and everything? Is there one?
Yes, yes, there's actually more than one because I think you're all familiar with the Measure O project, right? So we have our bond measure project, which we call the Measure O project, but in reality, it means a couple of individual larger projects. So both the library renovation and the police building construction project are kind of moving independently. The library project, as you might suspect, because it's more of a renovation, is moving slightly ahead of the PD building. For both projects, though, coincidentally, we're right around the 95% design level. So where we're at now is that we are, we're going over the design with really a fine-tooth comb, cross-checking those against cost estimates, because I'm sure you've all been following the worldwide supply chain challenges, and what that does to construction estimates is not necessarily good news. So we've had some alarm bells go off at different check-in points. We're starting to feel like, maybe we're over some of those. So I don't know that we're exactly where we need to be yet. So we are still proceeding with the design. We may have some difficult choices to make before we put the final package together about what will be in the base bids versus what may be at alternates versus what may just have to wait for another time. But where we are on that is that we think we will be ready to go with out to bid sometime over the summer. And so we had originally thought that the library would be fenced off and everything kind of in the middle of July. In all likelihood, that may not turn out to be the case because we are going to do a pre-qualification process for each project. So we won't just put the bid package out on the street and say, here it is. What we'll do is we'll do something that's more closely resembles a request for qualifications process, where we'll issue something that looks remotely like an RFQ for each project, and we will kind of review the qualifications and experience for each contractor that wants to bid on each project, and then we'll very likely create a much smaller pool of pre-qualified contractors, maybe in the 8 to 10 range. I mean, hard to say where we're going to end up, but that's what we're hoping for. And then when you do the bidding only goes to those who view pre-qualified. So that pre-qualification process, it was not something that we just thought of, but I think once we overlaid the necessary steps of that into what we thought the construction schedule was, it probably adds a month or two to each one. But the bottom line is we'll be starting construction for the library probably a little bit ahead of the police building. And then the construction period for each one of those projects, well, for the library is projected at about 18 months. And for the PD project, it will be closer to 24 months. Because keep in mind that the PD project is actually kind of two projects in one. So we'll build the new building kind of out closer to the corner of First and Grant. PD moves out of where they are now into that building, and then we renovate the space that they leave behind that'll be predominantly used for evidence storage and also create some meeting space. But that can't happen until the first phase is complete. So that's where we're at. I'll put maybe something that maybe has a little more definition to it, and I can give you a more detailed report at a future meeting.
No, that's pretty.
Or not.
No, that's,
We can call it
or-
good.
I would say or not, or good. But there's nothing happening to this building and so then this was originally supposed to be involved, made the prices tiers too costly.
Yeah, this was part of the original, what we called at the time, the Civic Center Master Plan. So we're not really doing much on this building with the exception of the lower level, which is where
The
PD
police,
is.
yeah.
But we're also trying to improve some of the ADA access into this building. We're not quite sure on what else that might trigger at this point because if we have to do some measure of public restroom renovation, then we'll have to do that. But we haven't taken that on quite yet. What we've really been focused on is ingress and egress and elevations to make sure that you can get from the parking lot to both the upper and lower level at a grade that's consistent with the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Got it.
Anybody else?
Just when you talk about the library, I just wanted to thank the council and the community center for providing space for the library over there. I'm over there every week. It's wonderful. Thank you so very much. And the staff that's over there, and most of the books are stored elsewhere. And you just type it on your computer and they bring it, to the library and they let you know when to pick it up. It's just very, very nice. Thank you so much.
Great. And I'll add that my son is signed up for swim lessons this summer. I think it's 5 days a week now, back to 5 days a week. So I'm happy about that. So anybody else? Okay, so I guess we're adjourned then until our next meeting on May 4th. Thank you.